Dr. Sunil Kothari was a notable individual, a dance historian, scholar, and writer who once assumed would be there forever. He was the veritable narrator of the Indian dance world, a dance sadhu who was able to be here, there, and everywhere, such that when we learned that he had passed away on the 27th December 2020 of cardiac arrest at the age of 87, many of us were unable to digest it. News of his death was hard for the Indian dance world, especially when we had just hardly recovered from the recent demise of modern dancer Astad Debu just the week before. One of the most prolific dance historians whose ubiquitous presence was felt globally, Mumbai-born Dr. Sunil Kothari cut a major figure in the history of Indian dance for the last 6 decades. His research and writings not only covered all the major classical dances, but also included contemporary modern dance of India. He was keen that Indian dance should also be a dynamic vehicle of contemporary concerns, not just about the exploits of Hindu gods and goddesses. As such, he also championed the cause of Indian contemporary modern dance and promoted alternative viewpoints from Uday Shankar, Chandralekha, Mrinalini and Mallika Sarabhai, Kumudini Lakhya, Manjusri Shirkar, Ursha Kurlawala, Anita Ratnam to Ratantiyam. Sunil was also closely acquainted with the great Indian painters of his time such as Ghulam Muhammad Sheikh, K.J. Subramaniam, Bhupen Kakar, Jatin Das and others. Sunil was author of not fewer than 18 books on Indian classical dances and recently launched his latest book on Satriya dance of Assam, celebrating Satriya officially as the 8th recognized classical dance of India. He confided that he was in the thick of gathering materials for his autobiography, which will tell all. I doubt that he had completed it. Once, on visiting Odeon artist Jatin Das, who was his neighbor at the Asiat village, New Delhi, where many Delhi artists lived, I decided to make a surprise visit to his house next door. When I entered, it was apparent that Sunil hardly lived in this house. The bare walls with books and files strewn all over the floor spoke of an itinerant soul who was everywhere except at his own home. His first major break was when he was persuaded by writer aesthete Dr. Mul Raj Anand to research and write about dance, specifically the newly discovered classical dance called Odissi. On behest of Dr. Mukh Raj Anand, Sunil was able to present his preeminent article on Odissi for Marg, one of India's influential art magazines. The article, illustrated with magnificent photographs by pioneer dance photographer Avinash Pasricha, created a sensation and indelible imprint on the national psyche. Dr. Sunil Kothari was the exceptional Indian art historian who was cognizant of the connection between Indian dance and Western modern dance traditions, their shared points of reference and evolution. He was perspective of the initial influence of Indian myths on earlier pioneers of modern dance such as Ruth St. Denis and Ted Shawn, both of whom had a strong influence on Martha Graham, later to become the high priestess of Western modern dance. The enigmatic dancer Ram Gopal was Sunil's model of an Indian dancer who was simultaneously an international star. Ram Gopal's larger-than-life image and Anglophile lifestyle, and as a celebrated exotic Indian dance icon in fashionable London, and the ease with which he conducted himself among the upper echelon of London society was a constant source of anecdotes. Sunil was a dramatic storyteller which he delivered in a distinct high-pitched voice. His encyclopedic thought process can run ahead of his speech. If one is lucky, one would experience a recitation of some dance verses, climaxing with a grand sweep of a gestural flourish. Everyone has some entertaining anecdotes related to Sunil. My favorite was that he could catch up with his sleep in mid-sentence, staying still in suspended animation, and then would continue where he had left off in the same tone of voice after a 10-minute doze. Sunil and I met in the early 90s at my first solo Odissi performance at the Kamani Auditorium, New Delhi, for a festival organized by dancer Jyoti Srivastava. I performed the Dasa Mahavidya based on the 10 transcendent knowledge of the goddess commissioned to the young Guru Gajendra Panda. Performed to live music, the premiere was sensationally received. Sunil gushed after the performance in his elegant standard black sherwani, exclaiming, "Where have you been all this time?" Sunil visited Kuala Lumpur on many occasions, not only to attend performances but also to present many lectures. He spoke on many relevant subjects, which included those on Rukmini Devi's Kalakshetra, Ananda Kumaraswamy, Uday Shankar, Ram Gopal, and Chandralekha. The most memorable visit to Kuala Lumpur was when Sunil came with the great Odissi dancer Sonal Man Singh, when they were still friends. Sunil gave a lecture on Uday Shankar and Sonal presented a memorable performance of Odissi at the High Commission of India, Kuala Lumpur. I was highly amused when Sonal-ji would stop in mid-sentence as Sunil would continually interrupt her to complete it. Sonal-ji would look at me with her huge eyes with a mixture of irritation, simultaneously pleading for mercy. The last time I was with Sunil was when he attended the Wayang Wong Festival in Yogyakarta in June 2019. He was excited with the performances and noted the similarities and connection with many mass folk dance theatre traditions of India. Typically, he remarked in passing, "I wonder whatever happened to the dancing prince Tejo Kusumo, whom Mrinalini Sarabhai had mentioned in her book." On the last day of the festival, a classic Sunil chants meeting occurred when an attractive woman, Mbak Tejo Wuwono, introduced herself to Sunil as the great-granddaughter of Prince Tejo Kusumo. In his early years, dancers used to dread Sunil's reviews. Towards the end years of his writing, Sunil mellowed as a critic of dance. He preferred being the Krishna amidst the bevy of gopis, where he was feted as grandsire of dance. When he wrote, he was kinder and he was worried that there should be no ill feelings. Dancers cannot accept criticism. You have to understand they have to put so much effort and look at their work from a close perspective, he remarked. I've had too much flack from those I criticize that I no longer bother. I value their friendship with them much more than to upset them, he remarked. That did not mean that life with Sunil was without its dramas. He discovered Facebook like a fish in water and was always in the midst of some controversy or other. Sunil's irrepressible spirit is what we appreciate and admire, and we shall miss him. The indefatigable lover of theatre who wants to be surrounded by the magical aura of dance wherever it may be. And right now, Sunil is possibly up there enjoying the vision of the dancing apsaras, true to his own dictum. Wherever there is dance, there will be Sunil.
Raja Natarajan with his jata. I say jata jutamath ganga khalakakat sheesh chandra lallat bhalakakat runda malagal sense dhar Parvati Pati Shiva Har Har Parvati Pati Shiva Har Har Parvati Pati Shiva Har Har Da